Welcome back. Today I'm going to be carrying on with making this Hydra sculpture. In the last video we forged out the 6 heads. Today we're going to be working on the body and hopefully get it finished. I've done this quick sketch to get the design out of my head. I mean, I'd still keep on changing it and I'll probably will add other stuff to it later on, but I think that this is sort of the basic shape that I'm going to do, and I just wanted to do this to get in my head where all of the different heads are going to go. So we've got the cross-eyed guy with the tongue coming out of his mouth. He's looking the wrong way because he's supposed to be the young, foolish one, so he has no idea what's going on. These two at the top are going to be the oldies, so the ones with scars. This one doesn't have an eye, that one doesn't have half a horn. Then we've got the other one with the tongue, and then these two biting each other. So my plan is to get them all set up as they are going to be sort of in straight bars, tack weld them on the back with the stick welder, and then forge weld them together and draw out all of this material into this body, which we can then loop up into this shape with a little bit of a fork or a bit on the end for the tail. I'm also sort of thinking about maybe putting in another bar on this tail piece, which you can see would wrap around the other one, as I think that would be quite a cool thing to try and do. And I might even put 2 on or 3 on and, you know, have them starting back here and wrapping all the way around to give it a bit more look rather than it just being this loop. I'm just using a piece of wire to measure the lengths of all of the heads. So from the neck to this mark that I've made on here, so that I know roughly how much material I need for the necks of each of the heads, so that I can get them all ready when I'm tacking it up with the welder, so that I've got enough material to create this shape. Based off of those measurements, this is where we're going to weld it together. We do have a little bit of a problem, as this one's a bit short. So I think what I'm going to do is slide a piece of 12mm bar into there, just 2 inches long, to fill that gap, weld it all up, make a cut there, so along that line. We can then tack weld all of this together and then forge weld it, but obviously I'm not going to get enough material for the entire tail, so I'll forge weld it together, forge a scarf on the end, and then we can scarf weld another bar on for the rest of the tail. That went really well. We've got it welded together, and I've just used a chisel there at an angle to create the scarf. So I'm actually going to set this piece aside, as the bar which I'm going to use for the tail is this. However, I'm going to forge it out pretty much to finish before I weld it on, as otherwise this piece here is going to end up like over 1 meter long, I think. So I'm going to forge the tail out now, forge a scarf on the end, and then we can come back after that and weld these 2 pieces together. I've got this bar cut off of that handlebar length. Again, I've cut it on the scarf, but I've decided that I'm going to tack these two together with the stick welder and then get them in the fire to forge weld them together, just because of the size of them. They're a bit big, really, for me to be trying to scarf weld these on my own. So I'm just going to make it a little bit easier by welding them together with the stick welder before we forge weld. I think I'm going to change the design slightly just by flipping around the point on the tail. So here we have it sort of bending back in, but I think I want it bending back out. So that just depends on which way around this bar is when I'm welding it. Time for the forge weld. You'll notice that I started to bend this end of the tail, and that was because I couldn't actually get it into the forge as I was hitting the back wall. But now it's all welded, we can continue this bend and put the shape in the rest of the body. I'll start in the middle here as it's already hot, so we can continue bending it here and then work it into this bend that I've already started to do on this end. It's been a little while since I've done anything on this video, but we can get back into it now. So I left off last time, which was probably about 5 seconds ago for you, but for me was quite a few days ago now. But anyway, I left off last time with moving the heads into position. So we have this main body all set up, and I've also reflected on the design a bit more, and I think I'm going to not put in the bars which wrap around here, and instead do this sort of bigger, more open design to it rather than just sort of tying in some bars around here. I've just spent maybe the past half an hour-ish, maybe a bit longer, sketching up this design. So I've been adapting it, keep on rubbing bits out and adding to it and changing it. And that's sort of the way that I like to design, is draw something out, see how it looks, see, rub bits out, change it, but also designs like this, these sort of flowing shapes and everything, I find that the best way to actually design them is to make them. And so when you are making them, if it doesn't look right and you actually want it bending in or out here, you can just do that because it's a physical thing and it's much easier to change, I personally find, than a drawing. Originally, I wanted to do a wrapping around the tail, and we're sort of going to take that theme into the rest of all of this. As you can see here, all of these bars are going to be overlapping and coming in and out of each other, so it's going to give it a much more 3D effect rather than it just being on top of each other as layers. They're all going to be sort of intertwined, and I think that as well is going to add to the overall sculpture, as the Hydra is often depicted with tentacles and lots of limbs as well as feet. It's a mythological animal. It's up to your own imagination to an extent of what it would actually look like. This design is heavily influenced by one that I saw maybe 2 years ago now. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Swanforge did a design like this, and it was a dragon rather than a Hydra, but it has all of these layers and overlapping bars and things, and it's a really, really good sculpture. I know that is a really bad description of it, but when you look at it, it's like you can see that it's all flowing and overlapping, and the design of it is very good. So go and have a look at Swanforge. They do loads and loads of stuff like this. I can't remember whether it was them, but this is very much in their style of design, all of these flowing bars. So go have a look at Swanforge. They're on Instagram, Facebook. They're really good, and yeah, I'm a big fan of their work. Anyway, back to the sculpture. I'm going to start making all of these pieces, and we can begin to overlay them and attach them to this main piece. However, you'll notice that during the forge weld, the vibrations from the hammer has knocked out the tongues, which I only noticed after finishing all of the filming and everything. And then I was looking around on the ground trying to find them. I managed to find one of them, but not the other one. So I'm going to have to remake the tongue for this head, and then to make sure that they don't come out this time, I'm going to just put a little bit super glue on them and then screw them in. I've just finished up making this top piece, and I think all of this is going to be quite hard to film, but I'm going to start on making this side so I can make up this top here, show you that process, and making all of the rest of it is going to be very similar to the processes that I'm going to be using in making that piece. I'll then show you some footage of forging all of these bits out. We've got some interesting scrolls and overlapping pieces, and then of course we're going to be putting it all together. And to actually fix it to the main body, I'm going to weld it on the back so you can't see any of the joints. I'm going to start by working on the middle section of that little piece that I showed you. So I'm going to forge a taper out, flatten it, and then twist it. And then we can weld on the other two sides. We have our twisted piece down the middle, and then I've tapered out two extra little pieces, obviously one for this scroll and then one for the bar, which is curving out on the other side. And so I'm going to forge weld these on. However, to make my life easier, I'm going to tack weld them on with a stick welder, and then we can fade it off into this bar. And you'll notice that I've got them finishing at different lengths to sort of help in drawing this taper back nice and gradually, rather than it sort of being a step down where both the bars end into this bar. We can have it fading off a bit more gradually. I'll get them tacked on, then we can forge weld them, and then obviously we need to put the curves and the scrolls into it. It's beginning to come together. We've got these two pieces all finished up, and what I'm going to do now is continue working on this piece. And so with all of this material, I'm going to forge a long gradual taper on it, and this can be this weaving piece, this long weaving piece which comes out here. And then I'm going to have to weld two pieces of bar together for these two extra pieces, and then of course weld that onto this piece. So it's just lots and lots of the same, but we've got some more sort of interesting shapes and some interesting scroll work coming on here with a nice flattened or even maybe a beveled scroll or something. I haven't quite decided yet. I've just finished up these two pieces. I'm going to actually weld these two together now, as you can see that these actually come off of a single branch. So I'll weld these two together and then weld this as one bar to this piece. I've got that overlay completely finished and bent into shape. I'm actually standing on the bench now, not only so that I can get a better shot for the video, but also so that I can see the design a bit better and see if it needs to be changed in any way. However, I think it's pretty good. I'm liking the look of it, so I can continue now working on the next piece, and we can get all of those bits made up, welded together, and then bent to shape. I'm really liking the look of this. I think it's all very sort of flowing, and obviously all of this down here is interweaving and interlocking up here. I ended up changing the design of this little section as I ended up with loads of material and it would have been all the way over here somewhere. So I ended up doing this really tight wrap, and when I was bending it, it naturally wanted to go sort of and twist. So I just let it do that. I thought, you know, the steel is wanting to do this, so let's just let it do it. And I think it looks pretty cool, the way that it sort of twists around, and you know, the profile that you see is changing because of that twisting, and I rather like it. But anyway, that's where we are at the moment. It's not welded, so I'll weld it together and then we can get to finishing it. I think I'm just going to do a wire wheel, just a rough wire wheel polish, and then a clear lacquer to seal it. So I ended up doing a much more artistic approach to making the body of the sculpture. Originally, I was thinking of basically just doing 4 legs, a body, and a tail. But then I remembered this. I had this in the back of my mind for literally, I think it was maybe 2 years ago that I saw this picture from Swanforge. I think it was Swanforge, of this dragon sculpture. And it was a wall sculpture. And it just had this minimal dragon's head, and then all of these sort of crazy scrolls and interweaving bars and ribbon-like bars and all of that sort of jazz, as I've tried to create on the background of this piece. And I just really like the look of it, and it sort of gives a bit of abstractness to the piece, is you're not giving it a body, but it sort of creates this effect of a body. And the Hydra is an animal which, again, it's a mythological animal, so it's sort of got this bit of mystery about it. So I quite like the sculpture having that abstract body in it, and it's just this sort of
whirl of bars, and it's apparently the Hydra was sometimes depicted with tentacles, and so having these weaving interlocking bars is perhaps linking to the tentacles of the Hydra. But yeah, I really like the sort of abstractness and the mystery surrounding the body. But the real reason why I've ended up doing the body like this is basically just because I wanted to try this style of design, of having loads of bars all interlocking and this sort of very ribbon-like design, and just the fluidity of all of it. I really like it, and as I said, it's something that in my mind is very characteristic of Swanforge's work and their work, and so that's sort of where the influence for this sculpture has come from. So thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Sorry it's taken me so long to get this video out. I realise now that it's probably going to be out on Halloween, so it's not Halloween for me, but happy Halloween to you. You've got your very own Hydra monster for Halloween. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you'll stick around. I've got some other projects in mind which I'm going to be filming, some Christmas commissions which are going to be slightly more interesting, so I figured I might as well do some filming on them so that you can see what I'm making. Anyway, one last time, thank you for watching the video, and if you want to see more work like this, then please go and have a look at Swanforge on Instagram. They do it much better than me. They're very good blacksmiths, so please go check them out.